Today, I'm going to be solving your language learning dilemmas. I am so excited about this video. I asked you guys on Instagram and here on YouTube as well to send me some of your language learning dilemmas / questions, and you guys absolutely came through. So thank you so much for that. Now, I just want to mention that I did not come up with this idea. I saw it a few months ago on YouTube. I have no idea who came up with this idea. It was not me. So yeah, just a little disclaimer. And yeah, I think that's all. I'm super excited. So don't forget to like this video and subscribe. And now let's get started. I have my screenshots on my phone, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I took those screenshots a few weeks ago and I haven't looked at them since, so this is gonna be a bit of a surprise for me as well. We're gonna start with a few dilemmas that you sent on Insta. If you're not following me on Instagram, you should seriously check it out because I only post here once a week, but I'm active on there every single day. So if you want some extra content from me, you should give me a follow. So yeah, the first one says, sometimes I feel stuck with motivation in language learning. And I feel like this is such a common thing that everyone struggles with at some point in their language learning journey. So here are 3 things that I always do when I start feeling unmotivated. The first one is I go back to the reason why I started learning that language. In my case, it's usually because I wanted to travel to a country where that language is spoken, but in your case, it can be something entirely different. The key is that you want to go back to that reason and just get excited again, because I bet that at the beginning, when you first started learning that language, you were super excited. Number 2 is I like to keep some sort of tracker of my progress. So whether that's just like a simple Google Docs where I write down the date when I studied and what I did and what I learned. It can be something more advanced like a Notion page or something. I can't use Notion to save my life, but if you can, that's great. The main thing that you want to do is keep track of your progress, because then you can go back and see how far you've come, and that always gives me lots of motivation. And then number 3 is celebrating small wins. So I feel like we often tend to focus on the big picture, the big goal, which is great, it makes sense. But at the same time, learning a language usually takes some time. Even if you're gonna learn that language really fast, then still it's gonna take a few months at least. So celebrating small wins is a great way to stay motivated. When you celebrate something, it just makes you feel good, right? And everyone wants to feel good. And when you feel good once, you kind of want to chase that feeling. So it naturally gives you motivation to keep going and then be able to celebrate another thing, another accomplishment. So yeah, those are the 3 things that I always do when I struggle with motivation. Okay, I feel like this was such a good dilemma to start with, but let's move on to the second one. I have trouble remembering new words when learning a language. Okay, my answer to that is very simple: mnemonics. Mnemonics are memory tools that help you remember information better and faster. There are so many different types of mnemonics, but I feel like for learning vocab in a foreign language, the thing that works best is making up a story or a mental picture that is associated with that word. So for example, the Persian word for apple is seeb. And when I tried to learn that word, I was like, okay, what does it sound like? What does it remind me of? And then I was instantly like, okay, seeb sounds kind of like sip in English, you know, and what can you sip? You can sip apple juice. So seeb is apple, you can sip apple juice. It literally took me like 5 seconds and I remembered that word instantly. And the more ridiculous your story gets, the better, especially if it's a word that you've been struggling with for a long time, or if it's a language that is completely different to other languages, you know. Feel free to go crazy with your stories. So yeah, anytime you try to learn a new word, just make up a little story or a mental picture that you can associate with that word. And I promise you that you will start remembering new words so much faster. Okay, the third one is how to not give up. I know that's stupid, although that's important for me. First of all, that is not stupid, and again, that kind of ties in with the first dilemma that I talked about, but everyone struggles with this one, and yeah, it's not stupid at all. Again, the most important thing is remembering why you started, because I bet that when you started, you had a clear reason why you wanted to start that language and you were really excited about that. So go back to that reason. One technique that I really like to use is visualization. So I basically just sit down or lie down for 5 to 10 minutes, close my eyes, and then just visualize myself speaking that language. I mostly learn languages for travel, so anytime I visualize myself speaking my dream languages, I just imagine myself with my huge backpack on a plane or on a bus to a remote village and talking to locals and just having so much fun using that language and it being so rewarding. You just have to come up with a really exciting story, basically. It can be anything, and again, it doesn't have to take long. You can literally do 5 minutes every single day, and I promise you that that will keep you excited to keep learning your dream language. Okay, and the last one I got from Insta is really interesting. I really like that one. How to learn new vocab on advanced level without flashcards and without passive listening/reading. This is quite hard because I normally recommend lots of reading and listening at the advanced level, especially reading. I feel like reading is one of the best things that you can do for yourself if you want to learn new vocab, new advanced vocab. But you don't want that. So let me come up with something else. I have 2 ideas for you. So the first one is synonyms. Synonyms are gonna be your best friend if you want to expand your vocab at the advanced level. What I like to do sometimes is I will take one really common word. This works really well with adjectives, especially. So I will take an adjective like nice, interesting, good, and then I will try to look for synonyms. I usually try to find like at least 5 and then form sentences with those synonyms. It's really fun and it makes you sound a lot more advanced. So highly recommend that one. The second one is paraphrasing. So basically you take a sentence and then you try to say the same thing in 3 different ways. You can play around with this. There are so many different possibilities. You can do one sentence that is very formal, so you kind of try to elevate the language that you're using. The second one can be very informal, so you use a lot of slang and casual words. You can really get creative with this one. So yeah, those 2 things are going to be your best friends at the advanced level. Especially, again, I feel like this works great with adjectives, because I don't know about you, but I find that I tend to use the same adjectives over and over again, and it's really annoying, and I sometimes like notice that everything's just nice and everything's interesting, but you know, there are so many different words out there that we can use. So yeah, highly recommend those 2 exercises. Okay, those were all from Instagram, and now let's move on to YouTube. Trying to keep up with studying 3 languages or more as a busy person. The biggest piece of advice I can give you if you want to learn 3 languages at the same time is to give each language a role. So choose one language that is going to be your primary focus, that you're going to focus on the most. Then the second language can be a language that you're trying to maintain, and then the third language can be a language that you're just learning for fun. Because especially if you're busy and you want to learn 3 new languages and you're very serious about all 3, I feel like it's just not gonna work. And after some time, you're just gonna get frustrated that you're not making enough progress, because when you're learning 3 languages at the same time, progress might feel slower. And then studying as a busy person, I feel like it just takes more planning. I would recommend sitting down with your schedule for the week and just try to identify when you have time to study and literally schedule it as if it were a meeting and make it a non-negotiable. Another thing that's going to save you a ton of time is planning ahead what you're going to study, what you're going to use, how you're going to study. So when you schedule that study session, write down, it can be bullet points, what you want to learn, what textbook, what app, what podcast, what YouTube channel you're going to watch. Basically, so that when you sit down, you don't have to think about, okay, should I use this textbook, or should I listen to a podcast today, or should I do speaking exercises today? No, you just look at your plan and you go straight into it. And believe me, it can save you so much time. I know that me, for example, when I sit down to study, it often takes me a good while to decide what I'm gonna do that day. And if I have a lot of time, then that's absolutely fine. But if I'm on a time crunch, I don't want to do that. So I like to plan ahead and know what I'm gonna do. That way you can also kind of prepare mentally and just be in the right headspace. The next one says how to learn a language through reading. Sometimes I struggle. You guys know that I am a huge fan of reading. I'm a huge reader. I read 71 books this year so far, so it's safe to say that I'm obsessed with reading. And it's also one of my favorite language learning methods, especially at the advanced level. So the first thing you're gonna do if you want to start reading in a foreign language is you are gonna make sure that you are choosing the right texts, because I feel like oftentimes, I don't know what it is, but oftentimes we tend to go for classics straight away. I don't know why that's the default, like that everyone thinks, okay, I want to read in a foreign language, I'm gonna go for a classic. Don't do that. I did that when I was learning French. I was at around B1 and I bought this 600-page classic. Spoiler, I've never read it because it was just way too difficult for me at that level. So you're gonna make sure that what you're choosing is actually going to be comprehensible for you. If you're around B1, B2, I would highly recommend graded readers and short stories. Short stories are great because, as the name suggests, they're short. So it's not a huge commitment and it's gonna make you feel great when you actually finish that story and it's gonna make you want to keep going. Graded readers are basically stories designed for specific levels. If you are a little bit more advanced, so like approaching C1 or like a strong B2, you can move on to regular books. I highly recommend bilingual editions. It's so fun being able to compare the same thing in the original language versus English, for example, and the differences can be huge. So highly recommend bilingual editions. When it comes to strategies, there are two things that I like to do. The first one is called intensive reading. This is where you read slowly, you look up words, underline stuff, and really try to focus. I usually do that with like 1 page max because it takes a lot of time, but it's a good exercise and you can learn a lot of vocab from that. The second one is called extensive reading. This is where you just read without stopping, you let it flow. Even if you don't understand every single thing, that's fine. You're usually gonna understand it from context anyway. It just builds flow and it makes you, I don't know, it just feels so good to be able to read for an extended amount of time without stopping. It just gives you that good feeling of really getting it. Okay, this next one is really interesting. My biggest challenge is that even though I know a lot of words and have a pretty good grasp of grammar, when I start speaking, I stutter, get stuck, and it just all falls apart. My biggest challenge is turning what I know into actual speaking skills. So what I'm getting from this dilemma is that your problem is not grammar, is not a lack of vocab. Your problem is that you're just not used to speaking that language. When you first start speaking a foreign language, it does feel weird, it does feel unnatural. And I kind of like to think about speaking as a muscle that we need to train. So in order to become comfortable, you need to practice. And I feel like at the beginning, the best thing that you can do is practice by yourself without anyone else, because you don't want to make that situation more stressful than it already is. I highly recommend recording yourself. So you basically pick a prompt and you try to speak about that topic for, let's say, 2 minutes, and then you can slowly build up to 10 or 15. Then you can listen to that recording, catch any mistakes you made, and re-record that same prompt. You can also try role-playing real life situations where you role-play both sides. So going to the restaurant, ordering something, going to the post office, or even just like introducing yourself or answering a random question that people might ask you. The goal is that the next time you try to speak that language, it's not gonna feel like this huge thing that you never do and is really stressful. It's gonna feel like nothing. You do this every other day and it's just a piece of cake. I used to record myself a lot when I first started learning French, and actually, fun fact, I moved to France. And when I moved to France, it was my first time, one of the first times I've ever talked to a native speaker in French. So I had no practice at all, but because I used to record myself quite a lot, it was not as scary, and it actually, like, after some time, it started going really well. This method is great, it works like a charm, and it's really worth giving it a try. I feel like I've been recording for a really long time, so I'm gonna do one more. But if you guys have any more dilemmas that you would like me to solve, or just questions in general, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'm having so much fun recording this video, and I would love to do a part 2. So if you want that, then let me know. But okay, the last one says, oh, this one's really interesting actually. I just moved to France without knowing the language, just the basics. I'm very overwhelmed and I don't really know where to start and what I should learn first to get quick results in speaking and understanding the language. Maybe you have some advice. Okay, I do have some advice. I'm gonna assume that at the beginning you don't really care about speaking perfectly, you just want to be able to communicate. So the best way to approach that is, first, learn the most common verbs, because there's a verb in every single sentence. And if you learn them, you're going to be able to understand what people are saying and then reply as well. Most common verbs, I'd say like 100 is enough. Then when it comes to grammar, at the very beginning, you want to master 3 tenses: the present tense, passé composé, and futur proche. You're going to be able to talk about the present, the future, and the past. Then later on, feel free to add l'imparfait and other tenses as well. But at the very beginning, those three are more than enough. And good news is that futur proche is so simple that it's literally gonna take you 5 minutes to learn it. It's the simplest tense I think I've ever learned. So yeah, it's really, really easy. My suggestion is that when you learn the most common verbs, learn participe passé as well at the same time. It's gonna save you a ton of time. And then the third thing that I would recommend is, because you're in France and you have so many opportunities to practice speaking, I would look for a language exchange near you. They're really, really fun and a really low pressure way to practice speaking. I used to go to that one language exchange in Paris that was Danish to French, which is a bit of an unusual combination. So it's just proof that those exist as well. But it was so fun. I loved it. And what I love about language exchanges is that everyone's nervous. So there is this mutual level of understanding that, you know, everyone struggles, no one judges anyone, and it's just such a nice environment to be in. And yeah, I highly encourage you to check out language exchanges near you. Maybe not at the very beginning, but once you feel comfortable with those three tenses, I would definitely check it out. You can also practice what I call safe scripts. So imagine that you're going to the grocery store. What is the cashier gonna ask you? What are you gonna reply? And you can literally write it down in your notes app so that when you go to the store, you know what to say. The same thing you can do with restaurants, going to the post office, or even just like talking to your neighbor. Imagine what that conversation is gonna look like. Practice at home, and when opportunity arises, take it. I know that it can be a bit tricky because people will probably want to switch to English when talking to you, but another piece of advice I can give you is to literally tell them, maybe not like literal strangers that you're just passing by, or like someone at the grocery store that you're never gonna see again. But if it's someone that you talk to more often, you can do what I did. I would be like, I know that you're trying to help me, but I really, really want to learn French. I really want to practice speaking, and I would really appreciate if we could speak only in French. Even if I don't understand something, even if you have to repeat something, that's fine. It doesn't bother me. My goal is to learn the language, and also good luck. I'm crossing my fingers, and I know that you're gonna make progress really, really fast. It's such an exciting opportunity living in a country where that language is spoken, but at the same time you need to be mindful and you need to create those opportunities for yourself. If you do that, I'm sure that you are gonna see progress really, really fast. Okay guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you loved it as much as I loved filming it. I had so much fun. So if you have any other dilemmas or questions, feel free to leave them down below. I would love to film a part 2 to this video. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram so that the next time I ask you guys to send in questions or dilemmas, you can get involved in my videos. Don't forget to like this video, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.